Mass Media.
Welcome to the Independent Voter Podcast from Independent Voter Project. We're going to expand a little bit. A new era of independent voter news that the journalists just don't cover, where we have these debates on a national level, really taking on issues so that people have more educated disagreements with each other. Just explain how the process really works. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. The Independent Voter Podcast. I'm your co-host and host for this week, Chad Peace. We have one of my favorite guests. Just a good guy, Eric Bronner. Started up Veterans for All Voters, somehow got into the wonky world of nonpartisan reform, and are doing a real cool campaign right now revolving around, getting veterans just to simply take the oath again. So, Eric, why don't you give a little introduction to yourself and what Veterans for All Voters is up to right now?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Chad. Obviously, appreciate you and the good work you do, and that you've been doing a lot longer than us. So I'm, as you mentioned, Eric Bronner, a proud Navy veteran, served in the Navy on active duty from 1997 to 2005. I was a naval flight officer. I flew on and off of aircraft carriers. And then had the chance when I got out of the Navy in 2005, went to law school, practiced law for a minute. Come to find out later in life, I'm one of the 55 to 60% of veterans who is truly independent. I've never joined either political party. I've never once said I'm a Democrat or Republican, and I've always felt a call to politics, to do something in politics, maybe run for office someday. But as you know, Chad, probably better than I do, if you're an independent, your options are limited. The two parties have a duopoly. They don't really want new competition. They don't want new voices. So heard a podcast back in 2018, Freakonomics Radio, called America's Hidden Duopoly with our friend Katherine Gehl and Harvard Business School professor Michael Porter. And it was just so compelling to hear two business people talking about politics as a broken, anti-competitive industry. So that podcast was my foray into who's doing this work in Missouri, where I live, and how can I get involved, and got really involved with a local organization, helped pass some nonpartisan reforms in St. Louis. And then a veteran saw my passion for the work and said, Eric, you should do something to get more veterans involved. And I had a business coach at the time who had a great idea of, you need to get, 10 or 15 veterans together who've built bigger and better things than you. And some truly remarkable human beings, some remarkable veterans answered that call to serve as advisors for 6 months. Two of them became my co-founders, Dan Biga and then Todd Connor, who's my co-founder, past founder of Bunker Labs. And we went from an idea to growing pretty quickly from our launch in 2021 to now having over 7,000 supporters, and we have 700 active volunteers in all 50 states. Our mission is nonpartisan reforms, anything that will make politics less toxic, anything that will help lower the temperature in our country and get more reasonable people elected to office, more common sense problem solvers. That's what we're trying to do.
I mean, I remember when you guys just came together with an idea, and we're talking now is 7,000 supporters and stuff. It's difficult to engage folks and keep them engaged in an issue like this, right? Because the hardest part is just constant tension of people trying to pull you way back into that partisan conversation. I mean, I know the conversations on our, Facebook posts and responses we get to our emails. I mean, doesn't matter what we say, there's going to be, a couple dozen that are going to accuse you of, doing the Republicans' bidding or doing the Democrats' bidding, right? Depending on what their perspective is. So how do you, especially in groups like yours and veterans and stuff, how do you maintain setting aside, because we all have our own beliefs too. We may tend to agree on this issue. How do you advance this organization and stay focused on, okay, this is the reform. These other disagreements we have are unrelated to our focus on reform. How do you do that? How have you grown 7,000 people and maintained that?
Yeah, we're really a value-centered organization that we do our best to live our core values every single day. And we talk about them regularly as a team and with our volunteers. And one of them that's most important to me is that we choose to operate above the partisan fray. And it really is a choice, Chad, as you know, because as you said, every single day, the media and friends and family and social media, they're trying to pull us back into the doom loop, the two-party doom loop that constantly says you have to pick a team, you have to choose a side. People get mad at me that I'm nonpartisan and I'm independent. People from both sides get upset that I'm not on their side, and so I'm against them, and it's just ridiculous. This is so. We're also fortunate, Chad, that because 55 to 60% of veterans are independent, most of our volunteers, they don't. This is the very first political thing they've ever done in their life. Most of them don't want to be partisan actors. They want to be problem solvers who continue supporting and defending the Constitution, which we swore in our oath. And that's the value that really is underneath all the other values for us.
Yeah, and so tell us. I mean, that relates to your challenge, your oath challenge right now. So just tell us about it. Tell us what your goal is and where you're going with it.
Yeah, so we have these sweet booklets here. I'm at a conference right now called the Military Influencers Conference in Atlanta. There's thousands of veterans here. We launched this oath challenge last week on Constitution Day to simply reaffirm our shared value. As veterans, there's nothing more important than the oath we swore to support and defend the Constitution. That binds all of us, whether you're the most liberal Democrat or the most conservative Republican. We all swore an oath to the Constitution, not to a party, not to a person. So we're reaffirming this here at this conference. We've gotten over 30 videos so far. Montel Williams is here today. We're going to ask him later to do it. He's a Navy veteran. We had a Army veteran who's a comedian named Tom Tran. He just took the oath, and it's been really powerful, Chad. I mean, some of the veterans have had an emotional response to, we just asked them a simple question. Do you remember where you were the first time you took that oath? And of course, every single veteran does. What did it mean to you then? Most of us didn't have any idea what it meant or understanding. But what does it mean to you now? And when you read these words again, what does it mean to you, and how does it hit you? And how do you continue serving? And we're getting some really, really powerful stories.
That's what I mean. I love what you guys are doing. I mean, you're veterans. You've already given them so much for your country, but it's just so hard in this space. But to have a group so committed to this and then a focus on reform, I think you guys are natural leaders, obviously, for this reform in this space. So you get all these folks together, you build up this. I mean, this reform movement by 15 or 20 years is probably slowly accelerated, but there has never really been larger organized organizations, right? To your point, is a lot of the folks in the space, they don't want to be in organized political organizations because it's a chicken egg thing, right? Like, well,
Right.
I don't want to be a part of that stuff, so then there's nothing there to combat being a part of that stuff, right? So how do you then drive this interest to then action, right? You promote things like stopping gerrymandering, right? Nonpartisan elections, open primaries, right? How do you then convert this group and then drive action?
Yeah. So our number one mission is really education, right? Because your average American, your average veteran doesn't think about elections at all, other than every 2 years. For many people, it's just every 4 years, right? And so education on this is how the system's working right now. And almost everyone thinks our political system is broken. But then here are real solutions versus here's the gaslighting you're going to hear from the parties. And no one believes that we're nonpartisan. I naively, Chad, when I started, I thought, okay, well, if we're doing something that both major political parties oppose, fighting for open primaries, fighting against gerrymandering, surely people will believe we're nonpartisan. But they don't. Why is that? Because news sources are so siloed. And if you're working in a blue state on reforms, then you're just a tool for Republicans,
And then you're a
and vice versa.
Republican. Yeah, it's
Right?
it's a life we live. In some ways you get cynical about it. In some ways you just start laughing about it because it's like, it's the Democratic establishment. And then the natural conclusion they want to go is, well, you're just anti-party. And he goes, actually, it's not that either. It's pro-voter. We're pro-voter.
Pro-voter.
And I always argue if you take reform to its logical extension, it would actually strengthen parties, in my belief,
Yeah,
because how do you measure strength of a party? Is it by how many seats you have, or is it by how many people you represent? And to your point, look at veterans. What, almost 60% plus or minus of veterans are neither party? That's
right,
a majority. That's overwhelming majority.
right.
And the fact that we don't have systems that are incentivized to represent our veterans who take an oath to our
It's
Constitution is, I think, crazy, which I alluded to it earlier, Eric. I had some news I wanted to share with you.
yeah,
I think you are aware, this is a great story. I think whether it's successful or not, Independent Voter Project had filed a couple lawsuits starting back almost 10 years ago to challenge closed primaries in New Jersey, to challenge the semi-closed presidential primary in California, really with a real simple argument, right? Is that you can't have a primary election stage of the process that's funded and governed and administrated by the taxpayers and exclude people because they exercise their First Amendment right not to join a party.
yeah,
So fast forward to this last year, a retired attorney out of Florida just decided, hey, what am I going to do? I like writing books. I'm here, I'm just going to go file this case, represent myself, challenge Florida's closed primary system. Went to all the usual suspects, the ACLUs of this and that. And you've experienced this, right?
yeah.
It's like, we
Yeah.
like what you're doing, but I don't know. And nevertheless, he's taken this case all the way to the Supreme Court, and he filed a writ of certiorari and asking the Supreme Court to take a look at the lower court's opinion because, as the Third Circuit's Court of Appeals has said, their response to our challenge saying we have a right to vote at the first stage of the public election process was, this is where the settled law is. Just join a party, right? Simply join a party. So we're challenging that to the Supreme Court. IVP, on behalf of, also with the collaboration of Open Primaries and on behalf of the Forward Party who joined it, we filed what's called an amicus brief, basically telling the Supreme Court, we've been trying to bring this issue. This is a great case, time to hear it. My news is not that the Supreme Court's going to take it, but it's gotten past the first stage and that the Supreme Court sent us notice no less than 45 minutes ago that it's going to be on their discussion table as something to discuss the possibility of taking the case. So
That's huge.
that's a major advancement. You got to give a lot of credit to Michael Polio, who's the attorney who, I love that story, like all on his own.
Amazing.
I'm retired. I'm going to go take this. And that you see a lot of those stories in this space. And frankly,
Yes.
it's, it's those lights at the end of the tunnel that you start to see because of people like him, because of people like you who, listened to a podcast, went to a meeting. Now you represent 7,000 veterans. And then when you look at these types of things through the lens of, how do we actually catalyze, get change, get an outcome, there actually is a lot of reason to be optimistic despite the madness in the political world going on.
100%. That's such a great story, Chad. It's so encouraging. I love it. And it's David versus Goliath, right? And my co-founder, Todd Connor, says this often. We're in a moment in our country where we need 1,000 different experiments to see what is actually going to push through and fix this broken system. And so lawsuits and legal challenges, absolutely. Ballot measures, legislation, absolutely. A movement, marching in parades. Like we do, I know at your heart, Chad, you helped start the National Association of Nonpartisan Reformers. You and I, we want to build a movement. We want to see more and more Americans saying enough is enough. We have to fix the system as a top priority.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on that point, and like, I wish I could spend more time doing this stuff. As you know, it's funding's difficult when you're outside the partisan sphere, right?
Yep.
It's not just that people don't have or want to give the money. It's like, well, usually they're engaged in some kind of other activity that you don't want retribution from, right? So
Right.
it's
Yep.
very difficult to raise money to get, folks engaged in the space and that. So it's hard to dedicate significant time. So my question for you is twofold. One, how have you been able to grow this group and do all the things you do, right? And raise the budget? And two, how can people contribute to your organization? Because I mean, you're obviously a testament of an organization that works, is doing good things, has a good group of people. So, you know, how are you doing it now? And then folks they're listening to this go, that's a great group. I want to support them. How do they do that?
Yeah, the best thing people can do is to go to our Veterans for All Voters website. It's just veteransforallvoters.org. And on the top, you'll see Take Action. And on the Take Action page, there's 3 or 4 different ways people can get involved. The simplest thing is sign up for our newsletter. Everyone can do that. If someone clicks on Become a Volunteer, there's a simple intake form. They'll be given the choice to hop on a 15-minute onboarding call with either me or our Chief of Staff, Alberto Ramos. And we meet with everyone. We talk, everyone who wants to be a part of this, we bring them into the team. Of course, people can make donations. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, so donations are tax deductible. But you asked me earlier, Chad, and maybe this can be added on to the question of how do we get people to action? And
Mhm.
really, it starts with building a community. And for veterans, one of the things we learned from 2024, Chad, was Veterans for All Voters was being overly prescriptive. Our mindset was too top down. It was too, hey, we have this policy that we love that we think is great, which, by the way, I still love Final Four, Final Five voting. I think it's that the Alaska election model is amazing. We support it
Mhm.
100%, but we can't just swoop into communities and say, hey, we've arrived with this solution. You need to listen to us.
Mhm.
Instead, we need to humble ourselves and build community, meet people where they are, bring them
Mhm.
into Veterans for All Voters, and the monthly all hands calls, our Slack channel, our educational presentation. We have really amazing tools for our volunteers that are all public domain, and then get them empowered to see what are the different potential solutions and what are they most passionate about. And if there's veterans in Michigan who are super passionate about campaign finance reform, then let's do that, right? Instead of being top down and too overly prescriptive.
Well, so I'm actually in Brazil right now for the next month, but I'm a San Diegan generally there, and there's been a lot of activity on the forum front. I heard there's a lot of veterans in San Diego. How do we get them engaged and on board to do some stuff in Southern California?
Yeah. I mean, we have a couple really outstanding leaders in Southern California, Joe Fitzgerald, Dan Wilson, a few others, right? And one of our challenges, Chad, just being really frank, is a lot of veterans don't want to get involved in anything that's political. And for our friends who are on active duty, it's almost not a choice, right? Most of them just have to take a pass, even though we're nonpartisan and they technically could get involved with us. People on active duty are not usually comfortable doing
Mhm.
anything that's political, even if it's nonpartisan. So, there's no silver bullet to get. We would love to get you 100 or 1,000 veterans tomorrow in San Diego, which, as you said, is an amazing Navy town. There isn't any substitute for just kind of small relationship building. You came to an early happy hour. We need to do more of those happy hours, just presentations out to civic leagues, to VFW posts, American Legions. That's how we do it. Our growth is slow, but it's consistent, and we have
Mhm.
real people. And what we found, Chad, is when you get 1 or 2 veterans who are really excited about the mission and have the bandwidth to get involved, it can
Yeah.
transform a campaign.
Well, I mean, I've just seen it just in the growth of your organization. I know we're running up on time here. I could talk to you all day. You're one of my favorite people, and just seeing how much you've done in these relatively short amount of time. I appreciate it. I encourage everybody to know about it. Whether you're a veteran or not, is to check out Veterans for All Voter. And you want to give a final word on how folks can get involved in your oath
Oath.
challenge.
Yeah, the Oath Challenge. If it's a page on our website, it's on the top there. You just click on Oath Challenge. If you are a veteran, there's a really simple prompt to help you, and the oath is there. And we have examples of veterans who have done this already. And we're going to be publishing these videos from now all the way through our country's 250th birthday to, again, just to affirm our shared values that we are supporting and defending the Constitution. We are a constitutional republic. There should be nothing more uniting than defending the Constitution. And that's what we want to call people back to.
All right. Well, appreciate it, Eric. I know we'll be in touch. I'll see you in Florida in December at the Nanner
That's right.
conference.
Looking forward to it, Chet. And thanks so much. Thanks for this opportunity, and thanks for all the great work that you've been doing, brother.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Talk soon.
Take care.
This is the Independent Voter Podcast, sponsored by the Independent Voter Project and produced by OLAS Media. Remember, you can always find the Independent Voter Podcast or the How It Really Works series at ivn.us. Follow and subscribe at olasmedia.com.
OLAS Media.